Did you know that in the United States, people over the age of 60 are now the fastest growing group stepping into the world of online dating and modern companionship? It's true. While many think dating apps are just for younger generations, seniors are proving that love, connection, and yes, even romance don't have an expiration date. Imagine this. Every single day, thousands of new seniors create profiles, share their stories, and take a chance on finding someone who makes their heart skip a beat again. Surprising, right? Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, why does this matter? Because it challenges a stereotype that society has whispered into our ears for decades. That after 60, your chances for new love are over. That your golden years are meant only for looking back instead of moving forward. But the reality is the opposite. More and more seniors are not just finding companionship, they're discovering fresh chapters of joy, intimacy, and personal growth. Here's something even more powerful. Many older adults say that dating after 60 feels freer, more authentic, and less pressured than when they were younger. No more worrying about chasing status. No more pressure to fit in. Instead, it's about companionship, laughter, and enjoying life with someone who gets you. That's a perspective worth exploring, don't you think? And before we dive deeper, let me ask for a quick favor. If what I just shared strikes a chord with you, if it reminds you that love is still possible, or if it makes you smile at the thought of companionship, don't just hit the like button. Hit that new hype button. It's YouTube's way of lifting up voices like yours, making sure more seniors see this message and feel encouraged. You can hype up to 3 videos a week, and every single hype helps spread this movement. So, here's the real question. What if your next chapter of love hasn't been written yet? Stay with me because what comes next might change the way you see senior dating forever. Meet Elowen, a 67-year-old retired school librarian from Ohio. For decades, her life revolved around rows of books, the chatter of curious students, and the comfort of her small but warm community library. She was known for her patience, her soft laugh, and her uncanny ability to recommend the perfect book to anyone who walked through her door. But when retirement came, and shortly after that, the passing of her husband, the silence of her house grew louder than any classroom she had ever worked in. Elowen thought her story of love had already been written. She had a marriage, children, grandchildren. She had memories, photo albums, and traditions. But once the routines faded, she found herself facing evenings alone. The television hummed in the background, the phone stayed silent, and weekends felt heavier than weekdays. She would sit in her favorite chair, cup of tea in hand, and wonder quietly, is this it? Is this what the rest of my years are going to look like? What made Elowen unusual wasn't her loneliness, it was her courage. At 67, instead of accepting solitude as her permanent reality, she made a decision that startled even her closest friends. She chose to try again. Not because she was searching for someone to complete her, but because she realized she still had laughter to share, stories to tell, and affection waiting to be expressed. Elowen wanted companionship, not perfection. She wanted someone to ask how her day was, to share a slow walk with, maybe to hold her hand during a chilly Ohio evening. Taking that step wasn't easy. She faced doubt from her children who gently asked, "Mom, don't you think you're too old for this?" She wrestled with her own self-doubt. What if I've lost my charm? What if no one sees me the way I once was? Yet she pushed past it. She reminded herself that worth doesn't vanish with age, and that wanting connection is not a weakness. It's part of being human. Elowen's story is not just hers. It echoes the silent questions many seniors ask but rarely voice. Can I really find someone again? Will I be judged for wanting more than memories? Is it too late to feel the warmth of companionship? The truth is, her courage to take that step is proof that love isn't limited by years. It's limited only by whether we allow ourselves to believe in it. So here's the lesson she teaches us right at the start. Opening yourself up after 60 is not about chasing youth. It's about honoring your present. It's about saying, I still deserve joy. I still deserve connection. And if Elowen can find the bravery to write a new chapter at 67, what's stopping you from imagining your own? Tip 1. The new landscape of senior dating. Dating in your 20s was a world of dances, phone calls on corded landlines, and maybe a nervous meeting arranged by a friend or neighbor. Back then, you might have dressed up for a community picnic, a church gathering, or a Friday night diner date. Courtship had a rhythm. Meet someone through family, talk for weeks, maybe hold hands, and slowly build something more. It was often slower, face-to-face, and deeply tied to community life. Now, fast forward to today. Senior dating has stepped into an entirely new landscape. Instead of passing handwritten notes or waiting by the phone, connections are made with the swipe of a finger. What used to feel distant or even impossible has become accessible, thanks to technology. Apps like SilverSingles, OurTime, and yes, even Bumble are not just for the younger crowd. Seniors across the United States are using them to explore companionship, find genuine connection, and in many cases, spark romance. Here's what's remarkable. According to recent surveys, older adults are not only signing up for these platforms, they're succeeding on them. More seniors are reporting meaningful relationships from online connections than ever before. Why? Because these platforms are learning to adapt to senior needs. SilverSingles, for example, tailors profiles around values and lifestyle rather than superficial swipes. OurTime highlights ease of use for people who didn't grow up with smartphones but still want to try. Even Bumble has introduced features that attract older adults who value choice and control. And yet, the real beauty lies in this. While the tools may have changed, the heart hasn't. That desire for laughter, for companionship, for someone to say good morning and good night. It's the same. The rules have changed, but the heart still beats the same. Still, stepping into this new world can feel overwhelming. Imagine opening an app and scrolling through dozens of faces, wondering how to begin a conversation with a stranger. For many seniors, this feels foreign, even intimidating. But here's the truth. Every single person on those platforms is there for the same reason. You're not alone in wanting connection. Think of it as an extension of the old ways, just modernized. Instead of asking a neighbor to introduce you to someone nice, you're letting technology do the introduction. Instead of waiting for fate at the grocery store, you're putting yourself where like-minded people are waiting. And here's the empowering part. You get to set the pace. You decide when to talk, how much to share, and who is worth your time. So let's pause here with a question. Have you tried online dating, or does it still feel strange? Share your experience in the comments below, because you might be surprised at how many others feel the same way you do. If this feels new, don't worry. Later, we'll share how people like Elowen turn this new landscape into an opportunity for connection. For now, keep this in mind. Whether it's through a church picnic or a dating app, love after 60 is still possible. The only thing that's changed is the way we meet. Tip 2. Companionship over perfection. When many people think about dating, especially in their younger years, they often carry a mental checklist. Tall, dark, and handsome. Slim, stylish, and outgoing. Educated, successful, and ambitious. For decades, these lists shaped how people approached love, sometimes leaving them chasing ideals instead of nurturing real connections. But something shifts as we grow older. At 60 and beyond, that checklist begins to feel less important, and something else rises to the top. Companionship. Take Elowen, for example. When she first dipped her toes into the dating world again, she caught herself falling back into old habits. Scanning profiles, evaluating photos, and wondering whether someone fit the mold. But the more she looked, the more she realized that what mattered most wasn't how someone looked in a picture, or whether they had a long list of achievements. What truly mattered was the feeling she got when she exchanged messages with someone kind, when she laughed out loud during a phone call, or when she felt at ease sharing her story without fear of judgment. Elowen had a turning point when she met a gentleman online who didn't meet all the classic boxes. He wasn't tall, he wasn't a polished dresser, and he didn't have flashy hobbies. But what he did have was patience. He listened. He shared his own vulnerabilities. And most importantly, he made her laugh. A belly laugh she hadn't experienced in years. That laugh was the spark, not the checklist. This mirrors a growing truth among seniors in the United States today. Recent relationship studies show that people over 60 increasingly prioritize emotional support, companionship, and shared lifestyle over appearance or financial status. In fact, many seniors say they feel freer now because the pressures of earlier life, raising children, building careers, chasing financial stability, are behind them. This stage of life is less about competition and more about connection. Think of companionship as the comfort of sitting in silence with someone and feeling completely understood. It's having a partner who asks about your doctor's appointment, joins you for an afternoon walk, or remembers how you take your coffee. These small gestures create intimacy far stronger than a checklist ever could. Seniors often discover that joy doesn't come from finding the perfect person, but from finding the right person to share ordinary, everyday life with. So here's a new way to frame the journey. Don't ask, do they check all the boxes? Instead ask, do I feel at peace when I'm with them? Do they bring out the best in me? Do we laugh together? Those are the markers of lasting companionship. Let's make this conversation interactive. What do you value most in companionship today? Is it shared humor, kindness, emotional support, or simply knowing someone is there for you? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we'd love to hear them. Because at the end of the day, perfection fades, but companionship has the power to keep life meaningful well into our golden years. And for many, like Elowen, it's that shift, from chasing ideals to embracing companionship, that opens the door to a deeper kind of love. Tip 3. Sexual wellness without shame. Yes, intimacy still matters, deeply. Too often, society paints a picture of seniors as people who have closed the door on passion, as if desire and affection somehow fade away after a certain birthday. But the truth, the need for closeness, for touch, and for that special spark doesn't disappear with age. In fact, many older adults discover that intimacy can feel more genuine and fulfilling later in life than it ever did in their youth. One of the biggest shifts happening right now in the United States is how openly seniors are beginning to talk about sexual wellness. A growing number of studies show that adults over 65 report greater relationship satisfaction when they address intimacy openly with their partners. Think about that. Conversations that were once seen as embarrassing or off-limits are now key to building stronger, happier bonds. For seniors, this openness often means letting go of shame, embracing honesty, and recognizing that intimacy is as much emotional as it is physical. And let's not forget the tools now available. The sexual wellness industry has begun to design with seniors in mind. FDA-approved hormone therapies help with changes in libido or comfort. Mobility-friendly solutions, from adjustable beds to ergonomically designed intimacy products, make closeness easier for couples facing health limitations. Even health providers are increasingly trained to discuss these topics without judgment. What was once hidden in whispers is now becoming part of mainstream wellness. This shift is exactly what Elowen experienced. After losing her husband, she never imagined intimacy would be part of her life again. She assumed it belonged to her past. But when she opened herself up to companionship, something surprising happened. She rediscovered her capacity for passion. First she felt shy, even embarrassed. But with time, she realized that intimacy wasn't about trying to be who she was at 25. It was about embracing who she was now. She and her new partner found ways to connect that suited their bodies, their pace, and their comfort. What grew out of that was not only physical closeness but a renewed sense of vitality and self-worth. Elowen's story reminds us that intimacy isn't about chasing perfection. It's about being present. It's about laughter in the bedroom, gentle touch, and the courage to say, "This is what I need, and this is what makes me feel close to you." When seniors release the shame, they open the door to deeper love and joy. So here's a question for you. Have you ever felt hesitant to talk about intimacy at this stage of life? If so, you're not alone. But every conversation helps break the silence and makes it easier for others to speak openly too. And here's the teaser. Elowen's journey didn't stop at rediscovering passion. What came next redefined her entire idea of love in her late 60s. And it may just surprise you. Stay with me because that part of the story is where everything changes. 4. Facing fears and social stigma. One of the hardest parts about dating after 60 isn't the technology or even meeting new people. It's facing the insecurities that rise quietly in the mirror. Age spots, wrinkles, stiff joints, or health challenges can whisper doubts like, "I don't look the way I used to," or "Who would want me now?" Add to that the fear of rejection, and many seniors convince themselves it's easier to stay alone than to risk vulnerability. But here's where the story takes a hopeful turn. According to recent AARP research, a powerful shift is happening. More older adults are embracing what's known as age positivity. This means celebrating lived experiences, valuing wisdom, and redefining beauty beyond youth. The findings show that seniors who approach dating with an attitude of self-acceptance not only feel happier but are also more likely to attract partners who appreciate them for exactly who they are. In other words, confidence in your own stage of life can become your most attractive quality. Elowen knew this struggle all too well. When she told her children she was thinking about dating again, their reactions weren't what she hoped for. Her eldest son raised an eyebrow and said, "Mom, don't you think that ship has sailed?" Her daughter worried, asking if she was being taken advantage of. These words cut deep, not because her children didn't care, but because they couldn't understand her longing for companionship. For a moment she almost believed them. But Elowen refused to let stigma, whether from family, friends, or society, decide her future. She reminded herself that she wasn't trying to replace the love she lost. She wasn't chasing youth. She was simply honoring a very human need, the desire to connect. And once she chose to stand firmly in that truth, the doubts began to lose their grip. Her journey shows us something powerful. Judgment often comes from misunderstanding, not malice. Many people, even those closest to us, can't fully grasp the courage it takes to open your heart again after 60. But their skepticism doesn't mean you're wrong for wanting love. In fact, the growing movement toward age positivity proves you're part of a wave of seniors redefining what it means to live fully in later years. So here's a thought worth holding on to. The marks on your skin, the stories in your wrinkles, the strength in your resilience, these aren't flaws. They're your history. They're proof that you've lived, loved, endured, and grown. And for the right person, that is not only attractive but deeply inspiring. Let me ask you, have you ever felt judged for wanting love again after 60? If so, share your story in the comments. You'll find that you're not alone, and your voice might encourage someone else who's still wrestling with fear and doubt. Because here's the truth. Facing stigma and insecurity is part of the journey, but it doesn't have to be the end. Like Elowen, you can choose to see your age not as a barrier, but as a badge of honor. A reminder that every chapter is yours to write, no matter what anyone else thinks. 5. The joy of second chances. Elowen's story reached a turning point when she met Martin, a 70-year-old widower who had spent the last decade convinced that love was no longer in his cards. Like Elowen, he had lived through the pain of losing a partner, and the thought of opening his heart again felt both impossible and unnecessary. For years, Martin filled his days with gardening, volunteering at a local veterans center, and Sunday dinners with his grown children. Outwardly he seemed content, but deep inside, he carried the quiet ache of loneliness, the missing laughter at the dinner table, the absence of someone to share the small victories and little frustrations of everyday life. When Martin and Elowen connected, it wasn't fireworks at first sight. There was no cinematic sweep of romance, no sudden realization of the one. Instead, it was something gentler, something more grounded. Their first meeting was a simple coffee at a local cafe. They talked about books, the quirks of Ohio weather, and the joy of spoiling grandchildren. And in that simple conversation, they both felt something neither had expected: ease. No pressure, no pretenses, just two people who understood what it meant to start over. As weeks turned into months, their companionship deepened. They began sharing evening walks, sometimes in silence, sometimes lost in conversation. They attended a local art fair, laughing like teenagers when they got caught in the rain. Martin fixed a squeaky cabinet in Elowen's kitchen, while she surprised him with homemade peach cobbler, his favorite. Slowly, they discovered that what they had wasn't about chasing perfect romance. It was about rediscovering joy in the ordinary. Here's the real beauty of their story. Neither of them was trying to replace the past. They weren't comparing each other to the loves they had lost. Instead, they were creating something new, something just right for this stage of their lives. It wasn't about perfect love. It was about the comfort of companionship, the security of knowing someone cared, and the delight of laughter echoing through the house again. And that's the essence of second chances. It's not about erasing what came before. It's about honoring your past while embracing the possibility of more. For many seniors, this realization brings an emotional freedom they didn't expect. You don't have to recreate your 20s. You don't have to live up to anyone's idea of what romance should be. You only need to open your heart to the joy that's still waiting for you. So let me ask you to picture this. Imagine what your second chance could look like. Maybe it's sharing coffee with someone who listens, maybe it's holding hands on a walk, or maybe it's laughter that makes you feel alive again. Whatever form it takes, don't give up on it. Because as Elowen and Martin discovered, the joy of second chances isn't about rewriting an old story. It's about daring to write a new one filled with companionship, kindness, and the kind of happiness that feels all the sweeter when it arrives later in life. As we close Elowen's journey, it's worth pausing to take in the lessons her story so beautifully illustrates. For anyone watching who has ever wondered whether love, companionship, or intimacy still belongs in your life after 60, let Elowen be living proof. The answer is yes. Not only is it possible, it can be richer, deeper, and more fulfilling than you ever imagined. The first lesson is that dating today is different, but absolutely doable. The rules, the tools, and even the pace may not look like what you remember from your younger years, but that doesn't mean they're closed off to you. From apps designed for seniors to local community events brimming with opportunities to meet like-minded people, the landscape is wider than ever. What once seemed intimidating can become a gateway to new experiences, if you allow yourself the courage to step through. The second lesson is simple, yet profound. Companionship is priceless. After 60, most people realize it's not about chasing someone who checks every box or fits some rigid idea of perfection. It's about having someone who makes you laugh, who understands your pauses, who notices when you're quiet and cares enough to ask why. Companionship in later life often carries a tenderness that comes from knowing how fragile and precious time really is. It's less about proving yourself and more about simply being yourself with someone who values you for it. And finally, let's not shy away from the truth. Intimacy has no age limit. Your needs, desires, and capacity for closeness do not vanish with the passing years. They evolve. In fact, many seniors report greater satisfaction in intimacy because it is rooted in trust, communication, and the freedom to embrace vulnerability without judgment. Whether that intimacy is physical, emotional, or spiritual, it adds color and vitality to life. And it is yours to claim without apology. Elowen's story reminds us of something easily forgotten in the rush of years. Love isn't about the decades already behind you. It's about the courage you have to keep moving forward. At 67, she discovered that the most extraordinary thing you can do isn't to chase youth, but to honor the moment you're in and to welcome love in the form it chooses to arrive. So let this be your encouragement. The years ahead are not empty. They are full of possibility. Love, companionship, laughter, and even passion are not reserved for the young. They are waiting for anyone brave enough to open the door again. And maybe, just maybe, your next chapter will turn out to be the most meaningful of all. If Elowen's story has resonated with you, then take a moment to think about what it represents, not just for her but for you. It's proof that life after 60 is not a time to slow down or resign yourself to solitude. It's a chapter full of opportunities, connections, laughter, and yes, love. And the first step to embracing that possibility is simple but powerful. Engage with this video. Don't just hit the like button, click the hype button. This is more than a gesture. It's a way of amplifying voices like yours. Every hype helps this story reach seniors across the country who might be doubting whether they deserve love again. Every hype is a ripple in the water, reminding someone else that companionship, joy, and intimacy are not just dreams, they're attainable realities. And here's the best part. You can hype up to 3 videos a week, which means you have the power to help multiple stories like Elowen's reach the hearts of people who need hope. Now think about the people in your life. Maybe it's a friend who lost a partner, a sibling who's hesitant to try dating again, or even a parent who believes love has passed them by. Sharing this video is not just sharing entertainment. It's sharing inspiration, encouragement, and validation. It's telling them, your story isn't over, and there's joy waiting for you too. When we share these experiences, we break the silence around senior love, intimacy, and companionship, and we help normalize the idea that wanting connection after 60 is perfectly natural, and even beautiful. And don't forget to subscribe. By subscribing, you join a community of seniors and their families who are embracing life fully, finding courage to step into new chapters, and proving that love, laughter, and companionship are not limited by age. You'll get more real stories like Elowen's, fresh insights, and guidance that's tailored to the experiences of people over 60 in today's world. Every subscriber strengthens the movement, helping seniors across the U.S. discover that their hearts are still capable of hope, happiness, and meaningful connection. So take action now. Hit the hype button, share this video with someone who needs it, and subscribe to continue exploring these incredible stories. Remember, your chapter isn't over. There's laughter to be shared, companionship to be found, and maybe even love waiting just around the corner. Like Elowen, you have the power to embrace it, and the best part is that it's never too late to start.